Have you ever wondered what it's like to live a life of wild riches, crazy parties, and dangerous risks? Jordan Belfort, the man behind the infamous Wolf of Wall Street nickname, lived that life, and it came with a massive price. His story is a roller coaster of ambition, greed, crime, and redemption. Let's dive into the real story of Jordan Belfort, a man who soared to the top, crashed hard, and somehow found a way to rebuild. The rise. Can you imagine turning a small dream into millions of dollars? That's exactly what Jordan Belfort did in the 1980s. Born in 1962 in Queens, New York, Belfort grew up in a middle-class family. He wasn't born with a silver spoon, but he had a sharp mind and a hunger for success. As a kid, he showed his knack for making money by selling ice cream at the beach, earning $20,000 in one summer, a huge sum for a teenager back then. After a brief stint in dental school, which he dropped out of, Belfort entered the world of finance. He started as a low-level stockbroker at a Wall Street firm, learning the ropes of the stock market. But Belfort wasn't content with small paychecks. What if you could build your own empire? That's what he thought when he founded Stratton Oakmont, his own brokerage firm, in 1989. Stratton Oakmont was like a rocket ship. Belfort hired young, ambitious people, many with little experience, and trained them to sell stocks aggressively. His team used high-pressure sales tactics to push penny stocks, cheap shares of small companies. These stocks were risky, but they offered huge profits for the brokers. Belfort's charm, confidence, and wild energy made him a natural leader. By his late 20s, he was making millions, living in a mansion, driving fancy cars, and throwing parties that became legendary. Who wouldn't want to live like a rock star? But behind the glitz, something darker was brewing. The fraud, what happens when greed takes over. For Jordan Belfort, it led to one of the biggest financial scams of the 1990s. Stratton Oakmont wasn't just selling stocks, it was manipulating them. Belfort and his team used a pump and dump scheme. They'd buy cheap stocks, hype them up to drive up the price, and then sell their shares for massive profits, leaving regular investors with worthless stock when the price crashed. This wasn't just shady, it was illegal. Belfort's firm made millions, but it was built on lies. They targeted everyday people, convincing them to invest their savings in stocks that were doomed to fail. Belfort later admitted he didn't care about his clients, he cared about his bank account. Can you believe someone could be so reckless with other people's money? His lifestyle matched his crimes. Belfort spent wildly on drugs, yachts, private jets, and extravagant parties. He once sank a $10 million yacht in a storm while high on drugs. His addiction to money and power was matched only by his addiction to drugs like cocaine and quaaludes. Stratton Oakmont became a circus of excess, with strippers, lavish trips, and even dwarf-throwing contests at the office. How could someone live so wildly and think they'd never get caught? But the law was closing in. The fall, what goes up must come down, right? For Jordan Belfort, the fall was spectacular. By the mid-1990s, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and the FBI were investigating Stratton Oakmont. Belfort's schemes were unraveling. In 1997, the SEC shut down his firm, and in 1999, he was indicted for securities fraud and money laundering. He'd defrauded investors out of over $200 million. Belfort's world collapsed. He lost his wealth, his marriage fell apart, and his drug addiction spiraled. Facing serious prison time, he made a deal with prosecutors. He pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate, turning on his former partners. Can you imagine betraying your closest allies to save yourself? In 2003, Belfort was sentenced to 4 years in prison, but served only 22 months due to his cooperation. He was also ordered to pay $110 million in restitution to his victims, a debt he's still paying off today. Prison was a wake-up call. Belfort had hit rock bottom, losing everything he'd built. But it was also a turning point. In jail, he began writing his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, which detailed his wild life and crimes. The book became a bestseller and was adapted into a hit 2013 movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. What if your biggest failure became your biggest comeback? The legacy. Can someone who caused so much harm ever make things right? After prison, Jordan Belfort didn't disappear quietly. He reinvented himself as a motivational speaker and sales trainer. Today, he teaches people how to sell ethically, using the skills he once used for fraud to help businesses grow. His straight-line selling system is based on the persuasive tactics he mastered at Stratton Oakmont, but he claims it's now about helping people, not hurting them. Belfort's story is complicated. Some see him as a con man who got away with too much. He's paid only a fraction of the $110 million he owes his victims, and his lavish lifestyle during his Wall Street days still angers those he hurt. Others see him as a redemption story, a man who learned from his mistakes and is trying to make a positive impact. What do you think? Can a person truly change? His book and the movie made him famous again, but they also glorified his wild lifestyle, which some criticize as glamorizing crime. Belfort himself admits he was a terrible person during his Stratton Oakmont days. Yet he insists he's a different man now, focused on helping others avoid the mistakes he made. Belfort's legacy is a mix of infamy and inspiration. He's a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed and a reminder that second chances are possible. His story shows how far ambition can take you and how quickly it can destroy you if you lose your way. Have you ever wondered what you'd do with a second chance? In conclusion, what's the real lesson from The Wolf of Wall Street? Jordan Belfort's story isn't just about money, parties, or crime. It's about choices. Belfort chose greed over ethics, and it cost him everything. But he also chose to rebuild, to tell his story, and to try to make amends. His life reminds us that ambition is powerful, but it needs a moral compass to keep it in check. Here are 3 key lessons from Jordan Belfort's journey. First, greed is a trap. Chasing money at any cost can destroy everything you've built, and success built on lies will inevitably collapse. Second, you can always start over. No matter how far you fall, learning from mistakes and creating a new path is possible. Third, ethics matter. Using your talents to help rather than harm others is the only way to achieve lasting, meaningful success. Belfort's story is a cautionary tale and a chance to grow. So, what's your next step? If Jordan Belfort's story inspires you to chase your dreams, do it with integrity. Learn from his mistakes and build something real, something that lasts. Want to dive deeper into his world? Check out his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, or watch the movie to see the chaos for yourself. And if you're curious about ethical sales or personal growth, explore Belfort's straight-line selling system online. What will you do with your ambition? Let's take inspiration from the highs and learn from the lows. The real Wolf of Wall Street shows us that life is about the choices we make and the courage to make better ones tomorrow. Like what you saw? Subscribe, share your thoughts below, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching.